Welcome to the release of Root and Bone, Book 1 in the Spencer Sisters series by Jessica Raney. A new threat and a brutal murder force two witches to use their gifts to protect the people of their small Appalachian town. That is, if the townfolk let them. So welcome. This has been quite some time in the making. How are you feeling today, Jessica?
I'm feeling great. It's a great day to release a book, to give it out into the world, to birth it, but not in a gross way. Not in
I don't know, there were some pretty rough parts there in the middle.
Yeah, I just meant for me. It's fine. I don't care about anybody else. So. I don't care if anyone else is grossed out. I just don't want to be grossed out. So
I meant the editing process, but that's okay. And we're also joined today by S.G. George, our Acquisitions Editor Extraordinaire, who also did the copy editing for this book. So welcome. So we are going to have Sarah read the back cover copy, and Zapho's going to put the link up because we know you all are going to want to get this book right now so that you can all grab your copy. So Sarah, please take it away.
Lena Monroe and her sister Jewel Spencer live in Ames, a sleepy little Appalachian town where nothing much happens. When it does, everyone knows everything. Or at least they think they do. The Spencer sisters have more insight. They come from a long line of granny women, healers, confidence keepers, and powerful magic wielders, able to see into the future, manipulate the natural world around them, and commune with the dead. When a girl is brutally murdered, it's clear the local law enforcement has no idea what's really at play. So it falls on Leona and Jewel to dig deeper into the mystery. In the middle of the investigation, strangers come to Ames who prove powerful and dangerous, setting Leona and Jewel at odds with dark magic, vengeful ghosts, and each other. With the help of a friendly spirit, the vast knowledge of their mentor, Granny K, and their own powerful magic, Leona and Jewel must work together to counter the evil descending upon their town. But their insecurities and fears prevent them from stopping another murder. They need to get it together. If their magic and sister bond isn't strong enough, their town will fall into darkness, along with everything they hold dear.
I love it. I mean, I don't love it. It's very scary, but I love it. So Jessica, this book, baby, that we are birthing today. So it stars the Spencer sisters. Can you tell us a little bit about them? Like, where do they come from?
Yeah, so first of all, so this book is a prequel to my Tooth and Nail series. So Leona Spencer is actually Delilah Del Monroe's grandmother. So when I finished out the Tooth and Nail series, I was like, man, a witchy grandma, man, I'd love to tell that story, but I knew I'd have to go back in time to do it. And I thought, you know what, my own grandma, my Nan, she was like a lady ahead of her time. She got married to my grandpa and had 2 kids and then got divorced at a time when, people just didn't get divorced that much. So, but she did, and she raised her 2 kids on her own and scraped by and made ends meet and was still the most generous person I have ever known in my life. And so I thought a lot about her when I was writing the story. And in fact, the first chapter, well, it didn't end up in the book. It got cut, but the prologue to this was sort of based on a story that she told me about her and her sisters finding this abandoned church in the woods one day. And
this is woods in the mountains in West Virginia?
Ohio. I'm from the border of Ohio and West Virginia. So it's like a river valley, but there's big hills on either side, lots of hollers and things like that. So yeah, so they found that. And then my grandma had several sisters. Like, she was the oldest of 12. So she had lots of sisters. And I myself don't have a sister, but I really wanted to explore that sister bond, because when you watch people who do have sisters, it's always like your sister, you can say the meanest thing you want, but they're still your sister. Now, you might get punched in the mouth or whatever, but there's a bond there. And that's really what I was thinking about when I was thinking about Leona and Joel. I was thinking about my grandma and her sisters. So they're not copies, you won't find exactly the same personality traits, but they were on my mind when I was writing this book. So it's kind of a tribute to them.
I love it. It's very fulfilling. You don't have a sister, but you do have a brother, right? So you've got this sibling relationship.
Oh, I have a
going.
brother for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And I will say,
I
as
know all
having a
about
sister,
punching him. Don't worry. He's been punched many a time. As have I.
as it's one of those, I can hit you, but no one else can, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Also, this takes place, in the late 50s, early 60s. So this is a completely different time. So, it's quite a different society here, which is why we talk about these two women are the most powerful people in town, but actually they have no power at all. So how did you explore that dichotomy?
Yeah, I thought it was important to. Well, there we go. I wondered how long it was going to take before that kind of a thing happened here, and you can see that it was not even 14 minutes in.
How can you release a witch book without some cat, mischievousness? It's required. It's okay.
I'm going to move the water because that because it will happen again. It will happen again. So the year's 1955. I was really specific about it, although I don't believe I actually say it's 1955 in the book. There are clues that you should get if you want to figure that out. But yeah, it's 1955, so women don't have the same rights that they have now. I laugh because they can't cry.
As we're rolling backwards. Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, it's interesting to explore the idea of two women who are very powerful yet have no power at all in society, and they could probably, blast their way through anything if they really wanted to. They can make a lot of stuff happen, but it's not in them to do, and I think that's a very real thing for women. Also, I was actually thinking about this today. One of my favorite TV shows, and this brings back my grandma as well. She had the cable. I did not have the cable in my house. I had to if I wanted to watch cable, I watched it at her house, and TBS was always on. And TBS in the 80s, they did a lot of reruns of old TV shows. So my favorite rerun to watch was Bewitched. And Bewitched is a show about a woman who's a witch, and she marries a guy who's a mortal, and he has no idea until their wedding night that she's a witch and she can do all kinds of cool stuff. And he's like, oh, but that makes us weird and bad. Don't ever do your cool magic. Even though, she could be like, ding, 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 and the dishes are done, or ding, 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 their bank account's full. And he's like, oh, no, that's not how, blah, 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 blah. It's the dumbest premise now, but I was glued to that when I was a kid, mostly because it was magic was the thing, right? So,
right.
But I thought a lot about Bewitched when writing this book, because I'm like, you have all this power, and yet you still let some dude talk to you like that. That's fascinating. I would eviscerate him. I would go full Willow. Right. Full Willow on someone. But I'm probably a villain. Yeah. So Samantha Stevens was not a villain, and neither are Leona and Jewel, even though Jules maybe like that. Jewel could go either way some days. But no, she's not a villain.
One bad day, and Jewel. Which, Sarah, two sisters then, right? Leona and Jewel. They definitely have different views on how magic should be used. Yes. Which character is your favorite, Sarah?
I think Jewel is more fun, but I really like that Leona sticks to her convictions. She has moral fiber, and I respect that, because a lot of times, moral fiber is not as valued as it should be.
Yeah. Nope,
yeah,
I agree.
Leona's classic big sister, right? She wants to do the right thing and the responsible thing. And she's not, she's actually not even she's Jewel's big sister, but Jewel and Leona are the second family kind of thing. All of their brothers and sisters are much older than them. That's when you're a writer and you write all this backstory and it never really makes it into the book, but it. That's the kind of thing with me.
Their brothers in there, yeah.
Yeah, the brothers are in there. Actually, at least two of their sisters and their brother, or older brother is mentioned. Yeah, sister too. Yeah, it's in there. It's just I know way more. Of course, I have to because I write it. I'm responsible for writing it.
Well, there are more books coming.
Yeah. So anyway, but she feels like she's the older sister to Jewel, and the other ones are so far away from her, they might as well be a different family, right? Right. So, just that was kind of like my own grandma. I think that she was the oldest, and then she had sisters that she was an adult by the time they were born. So she's like their mom, right? So they're
more like
very
an aunt
different. Yeah, a lot of families are like that. It's not an old or a new thing; it's a thing. But anyway, like, she takes it seriously, and she takes magic seriously and being responsible with it. Whereas Jewel's like, can it get me something good? Then I'm going to do it. You know, like, her intent is not ever evil or ill. It's just what's best for Jewel. And I think that's fine.
Yeah, no, it works. They balance each other really well. Yeah. I mean, with only one or the other, it'd kind of be boring, right? So with the two of them together, that's it just makes it more interesting. And the conflict isn't just the bad guys; it's between them, it's between their families, it's between the town, right? And then you have the villains that come in. So you have all of these layers of things that these women are dealing with.
They disagree in how to solve the problem, and you know, that ends up being a thing.
Right. For sure.
Not to spoil. It ends up being a thing.
It comes up a few times. Florida Kevin wants to know, did you do a lot of study on the time period, or did you already have a lot of that background knowledge?
I watched Happy Days several times. And I listened to the American Graffiti soundtrack.
Oh,
no. You know what I probably did, and I don't know if research is the right word, but I'm a history person. I love it. Especially World War II history. So there's some stuff in there about her brother, and that part was fun to make sure it was kind of right. I think that going forward, I mean, I'll give you a little spoiler. In the next series, I want to kind of explore, like, this is the 50s. We'll move into the early 60s, maybe, so, you know, what's going on in these time periods. I mean, I know for a fact in the next one, The Young and the Restless will debut on TV. So it's very important that soap operas happen for Jewel.
Yeah, that would be.
If you read, Aunt Jewel makes her first appearance in my book, Rack and Ruin, and she's a really old lady at this point in time, and she really likes watching her soap operas. So I think it's really important to give people that, to see where Jewel first gets her soap operas. And again, my grandma, she was the biggest Days of Our Lives fan, and that means I was the biggest Days of Our Lives fan, and I continue to love Days of Our Lives because it's ridiculous. But I used to love soap operas. It was the greatest thing in the summers to get to watch, like, the NBC soaps. I didn't do anything else. I watched Days of Our Lives, Another World, and then Santa Barbara. So I knew the routine. But Days of Our Lives is my favorite. When I was like 4, I could tell you the entire genealogy of, you know, every family on Days of Our Lives. It was crazy.
Yeah, Jen says Jensen Ackles was on Days. Was Days? Is that the one he was on? Do you know?
Yeah, he played Brady Black. Yeah, right.
There you go. I don't know. I watched All My Children. That was the one my mom
or Sean.
watched.
I don't know. He played Marlena's kid. I'm not
Someone
sure.
swoony, Jen says.
What?
Someone swoony. Speaking of swoon, Leona is married, right? She's married with a daughter, but her closest relationship outside of Jewel is actually with a ghost. Can you tell us a little bit about Kale and why you decided to make that a very close relationship for her?
Well, I do love the torture characters, so I wanted to make the person that, like, you could love the most, that wasn't your child, I guess, completely unattainable. Like, you can't even touch them. Because I'm mean. And I like to be mean. If I myself cannot be happy, then I shall never let a character be happy. I'm just kidding. I'll let a little bit.
All right, Sarah, we need to work on this, all right?
There needs to be a little bit of a happy ending. We have to give the readers something satisfying for the end of the story. You can torture them all you want, just so long as the happy ending happens.
There was
this
one
is why
review.
You and Jesse get along so well. I also have to make sure with Jesse there has to be a happy ending. Yeah, Jesse says, see, she says she likes mean authors. Yeah, they're her faves.
Yeah, I mean, like, it goes back to my soap opera roots. Like, you need a little bit of happiness, but then you need to drive a wedge, because then the reconciliation is so much sweeter. So, you add that stuff in there, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I loved Kale. Like, I wasn't sure where that was going at first, because, spoiler alert, Leona can see and talk to dead people. That's why she has a ghost boyfriend.
That's not a spoiler alert. It's pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the first chapter that you realize that. So, she can see dead people and talk to them, whereas Jewel can hear Kale. She can sometimes hear other ghosts, but she's not, like, in tune with the ghost the way Leona is. It's a specialized power. And it was kind of cool to think about that too. Like I wanted all the witches or any kind of creatures to maybe have different powers. Like it affects different people differently. So, you know, Jewel is very adept at certain spells. She's creative with magic because she's not fettered by like, oh, what should I do? She's like, oh, I bet I could do this. So she thinks outside the box. But Leona has a different connection to like the magic than Jewel has, and doesn't. Some things she has to work harder at and some things she doesn't. But her specialized thing is she can talk to dead people and see them, and they come to her. So in times of need.
Times of need.
Yep.
Or if she doesn't want them to, gosh doggone it, but there they are. She sees them anyways. It's really fun, though. I love the dynamic. I love the magic system, the way that it works on here. And apparently, Sarah and I are on the short straws for this one because a lot more of the chat is very excited about the meanness. So.
Right? Well,
I mean,
no. So I like being mean to the character. When I am looking at a story, if the character ends and it's a happy ending and there are no stakes and no change and like her boyfriend died in the last chapter, but he's brought back now, so it's all good. I don't want it. That's bad. But, you know, if her boyfriend gets severely maimed and is continued to be severely maimed, but he's still alive, then that's fine.
See, I think that's a fair compromise. All you boyfriends out there, I hope you're taking notes. Better be nice. Yeah.
I won't kill you, just severely maim.
Just severely maim you. It's fine.
It makes an interesting story. What do you want? I have a memoir to write.
Yes, I do love a good maiming.
See?
I can have a list. I have a list of people. Yeah.
I love it. Well, right now there's a lot of mood reading going around, which is how I always read. So I don't know why this is now a thing, where it is, you know, how people feel and they decide that is the book that they want to pick up. I think it has a lot to do with, you know, we're surrounded by so much to entertain us and so much work we have to do and so much. So we've kind of like, I don't know what I want to do right now. So people are starting to go towards what mood do they feel like right now, right? What mood are they in? So what mood do you think is the right kind of mood to be in to pick up Root and Bone?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Tortured Poets Department mood. Like if you're in your kind of wallow in. Not wallow, because it's not a wallow book. It's not
wallow. No, this is not wallow at all.
I think someone said it was gothic, and I'm like, gothic? Is it really gothic? And then I thought about it, and I think it is gothic, and I think it's very, I mean, I put it in a post today, it's Appalachian Gothic, or Appalachian Gothic, and, you know, it's mood, it's like got ghosts and supernatural stuff, it's got a romance, not quite, kind of like, it's got high stakes, there's murders, it's suspenseful, you know, I think that it's very gothic. It's just not, you know, it's not Jane Eyre.
Right.
No. Not Northanger Abbey. Yeah. But it's gothic and it's fun and and I was really thinking about it as a departure from the Tooth and Nail series. You know, Tooth and Nail series is straight up noir. It is kind of trashy, and noir is defined as like the fall from a curb. Not the fall from a pedestal, but the curb. Dell doesn't have far yet, anyways. But she still manages to go pretty far. But it's such a different vibe, and I wonder, you know, like I really how different that vibe is. But I'm going with it because I love that this is so different, because it definitely starts in a different place. Where it ends up, I don't really know, but I love the gothic mood that it brings. And you know, if you are, I mean, the thing that people seem to have responded the most strongly to, other than, you know, use of certain words, is, you know, like the romantasy part of it, right? Like, I never really thought about it like that, because I was like, oh, I don't even want to write this, and it's not my thing. But people are like, man, I need more of that, so that's really interesting for me to see that people respond to that.
It's very sweet, the relationship between Leona and Kale, especially since they can't touch each other, right? So it's just, It's beautiful. And I think that has a lot to do with the gothic feel. because you've got the ghosts, right? You have these dark woods, kind of secluded areas, which for Gothic, they were like secluded in a mansion or on an estate. And this feels like that, right? Like being locked in those hollows very much feels like that same kind of Gothic thing. So I totally understand that. So I completely agree. If you want like a good Gothic mystery with like, or if you're feeling a little bit of feminine rage right now, because let's face it, we all have our moments, especially now, this is a really good book for that too. So what do you think, Sarah?
I had been describing it as a witchy buddy cop.
Oh yeah. Maybe not lighthearted though.
No. Well, a witchy buddy cop with spooky. Because you got the two characters that kind of butt heads, but they still work well together. They're foil off of each other. One of them's a little bit smarter. One of them is a little bit wise ass. And then they solve a crime that just happens to be a completely eviscerated young girl. You know, it just happens to be.
It happens to be what the crime is. It could have been anything.
It could have been anything.
But this is a Jessica Raney book, so it was definitely going to be somebody eviscerated.
I mean, Jessica? I don't like to leave a head. I don't believe in leaving a head attached to a body. So I personally, I actually, I have a lot of ideas about how to kill a cat. I have a lot of ideas about how to kill a cat. I'm just kidding. Don't call PETA.
I know, please. No.
But I might.
Those are her children. Trust me. Yeah.
Eat a cat.
Eating cats are acceptable. Yes.
Now I have a lot of ideas about, because when you deal with ghosts and vampires and werewolves and supernatural creatures and different monsters, how do you make that interesting and fresh? And the way I like to do it is I take a thing about them and I use it, like, I use werewolves in a certain way. I might use vampires a different way. But I feel like there's a lot of room to use werewolves in different series in different ways. These werewolves are crime lords, not nice people. Could there be more friendly werewolves? Possibly. Could there be, like I used a vampire before, real trashy and murdery. And the vampire sort of in this one is quite murdery. Could I use them in a different way? I have a lot of ideas on how to do that. But let me tell you that almost all of them will involve something without a head. So
it's a trope now.
I mean, my favorite short story is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, so I'm not going to not be head things.
Well, there you go.
Florida Kevin says, more friendly crime lords? It's right. I mean, it could be. I mean, Dell... No, she's not a friendly. Never mind. Nope, sorry. Friendly is not the word I would... There are many positive words I would use to describe Dell, but not friendly.
I mean, she's fair-ish.
See, like I said, there are positive things about Dell, a lot, but not friendly. Beheading things is half the fun. Jesse agrees with you. Mm-hmm. And Satoru also loves Sleepy Hollow. Yep.
Yeah, there's a certain awfulness about something not having a head. It's very other, right? Like if you...
Yeah.
It's a human, but it's not. Without the head, it's so weird looking, and you're like, what is... And then, the Headless Horseman, he just shouldn't be walking around and doing stuff without a head. It's upsetting. Yep. So, it's the other, if we want to get off fancy literature on us, it's the other. I'm not sure that I'm really capable of being fancy.
It's very brutal. Like, it takes a lot of work to take somebody's head off, and they are definitely dead by the time that you do it. So, like, it is a show of dedication to the crime to remove somebody's head.
Well, there's a power in it. That's important. That's a big part of the story. Like, it's not like, oh, I feel like cutting a head off. Like, there's a reason for it, as there should be for doing things like that. I mean, not that I advocate anyway. Yeah, please don't have a reason to take someone's head off.
No, this is fiction. If we weren't clear, maybe I should make that clear. This is a fiction book.
There's a reason for it. There's a magical reason for it, and that's important to the story. So if I'm gonna do something super awful, I really want to have a reason for it. I need to have like a motivation to do it. I'm not good at writing things for the sake of throwing stuff in there, unless it's bad jokes. But
Yes, they
Isn't
have
that
no
everybody,
place in my
though?
society. I agree. No bad jokes, dad jokes.
But yeah, like there's a reason. And I enjoyed it very much, writing the beheadings. I actually think the ghosts were worse. Like when you get to the ghost part, what happens to them? Like I think that's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
worse than a beheading. But personally,
Especially the children. But just you're gonna have to read it. Children ghosts, but you're gonna have to read it.
it's fine. They were already dead.
They were already dead, but I
How
still
much
didn't
worse
like it.
can it be?
Speaking
You'll
of,
find out if you read the book.
That's right. Pick up your copy now. ChrisDragonship.com/root and bone. So
speaking of, one of our Facebook chatters just said, I would love to learn more about the children in the cemetery. Even after I finished the novel, I kept thinking about them.
yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
the old Ave Maria, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so growing up in southeastern Ohio, there was a cemetery up on a hill in the middle of nowhere, and it was an old Catholic cemetery called the Ave Maria. And they didn't bury people there anymore because it's way in the middle of nowhere. But it was close to a friend of mine's house. So it was like a thing to get dared to go there. So it was like, you know, one of those things where you are stupid and like 14 and you go do that. But I always want to do, I incorporated that in a short story one time and then I used it here. But the children come from a real creepy trip I took in North Carolina with my brother. We were in a canoe paddling on this lake called Baden Lake, and we found an island and like got off onto the island and started looking around, and we found this cemetery, and none of the tombstones was an adult tombstone. They were all kids. So it was horrible. And I was like, oh, file that away for future use. And then when I got home, I started like looking up the area and stuff. And the whole place had been like, it was a town, and then they submerged it when they built a dam in the area and all that. But the graveyard remained because they had a diphtheria outbreak, and that killed all the kids first.
Oh.
So I was like, well, again, filed away.
Yeah.
For future reference.
It doesn't make it less horrible. Yeah, exactly.
No,
So,
but that's where the cemetery that's kind of the origins of the cemetery. But yeah, the Ave Maria was fun to write, and I feel like there's definitely more story about the Ave Maria if I would ever go back and do that. But yeah, that's kind of where it comes from.
That's awesome. Well, on this, your book launch day, we do have a philosophy around here at CDS that if people like you, they will also like what you write. So I have a question. One, what are you currently watching?
I am currently watching two amazing shows. The first one is Under the Bridge on Hulu, and it is a true crime, but it's not a documentary. It's like a fictionalized account of a true crime book about a girl that gets murdered in Canada, in Victoria, Canada. It stars the amazing Lily Gladstone, and I have been obsessed with watching that. I think the new episode actually comes out tonight, so maybe we'll do that later. But then my other obsession is Hacks on HBO or HBO Max, starring my favorite from way, way, way back in the Designing Women era. So Jean Smart, she plays like a Joan Rivers style comic, and Hacks is probably the funniest show on TV, in my opinion. Absolutely love it. So those are my two watches right now. Other than, I'll always watch a Naked and Afraid episode. Naked and Afraid, I like it.
Set the mood. The next adventure through the woods in Appalachia, Naked and Afraid episode inspired.
Yeah, I feel like that already happened one time.
Well, kind of, yeah, in the other series, yeah, very, very much so. And what are you reading?
I am currently reading two books. One is a reread. I'm reading Comanche Moon by Larry McMurtry because I like to read that to get my groove on when I'm trying to write something. Because Larry McMurtry is a master of dialogue, and so I like, and you can hear a character, you just know them by the way he has them talk. So when I need to write characters and dialogue, I read that a little bit. But I have just started. It's here somewhere, actually. I kind of got on A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, even though I haven't really started it yet. But I've heard that it's, naughty. So
I have also heard that it's naughty.
Hey,
it might be too much for my delicate sensibilities. But
just don't read it out loud to the children. The cats and the dogs. I love it. And what are you listening to?
Oh, I'm listening to Taylor Swift all day long, every day. I'm in all my eras. Currently, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is basically on repeat in this house. But you never know. Like, it's always going to be a Taylor Swift. In fact, like, sometimes I'm like, no, you can't. No, don't play it all too well, Jessica. Don't you? And I'd say it to myself. And I like hit play. Like, I'm looking in a mirror. I'm like, Alexa. So, anyway,
just do it.
Yeah, Taylor Swift all day, every day.
I love that. Jen Bear says Akatari is naughty with wings. So I love it. I haven't dived in that one myself. It has nothing to do with the content. I'm sure I will love that. It's this. And I have a lot to read.
Yeah, time is at a premium, so it's always like little bits here, little bits there. I take a book when if I have a doctor's appointment or whatever, I just take it with me. And I get ticked off. Like, I went the other day and I took the book because I assumed I'd have to wait a while, and then I had to wait like no time. They're like, "Yeah, come on back." And I'm like, "But I brought a book."
I'm good, man. Call me in an hour. Please let me wait longer.
Yeah.
I love it. Attention is a currency, Jen. You are absolutely right. So Sarah, this book, you've made it all beautiful for us. So if anyone out there is looking for an editor, first tell us what kind of editing you do and where they can find you.
I do line editing, developmental editing, and copy editing at ladybirdediting.com, or you can reach me ladybirdediting@gmail.com, or you can watch the show live as I edit live on Twitch on Tuesdays.
Which is Birdie25, BIRDEE for that one, 25 on Twitch.
Except the Tuesdays that I'm here. You know, the Tuesdays that I'm here, this is my show. I've worked for today. I can play games now.
That's right. No more editing. We are done for the day.
I say that as if my day doesn't start at 4 in the afternoon and end in the 4 in the morning, and I will absolutely be working after this.
Woo! Night owls!
Night owls for the win! And Jessica, congratulations. I'm so glad that this book with this beautiful cover and this emotional inside is out there for the world. So now that people are ready, first of all, you can go to curseddragonship.com/rootandbone to find it. The paperback is available anywhere that you buy your paperbacks, and it is on Kindle Unlimited if that is a service that you prefer. And Jessica, where can people find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find me on my website. You can find me I love Instagram. I love art, so I like to follow artists. If you're an artist, tag me on Instagram because I like to follow it. I'm on the Facebooks, obviously.
And the other thing, Jess, you have your newsletters on your website, yes?
I do. And I was running 2 contests today, too. So I have 2 Amazon gift cards to give away, and I will be rolling the dice on that here very shortly. So if you win one of the gift cards, I will send you a DM.
Excellent. So make sure to go to jessicaraney.com too to make sure to sign up for that. So excellent. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week when we have the release of the final first book in the Misplaced Adventures series, which Jessica also has a book in. So that's very exciting. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
We shall see. I haven't tested that button, so here we go.
Should we be singing ourselves, or?
It would only be you. You're the one who can sing. You're gonna have to carry it.
Say, I can sway awkwardly without the music, but it feels a little weird.
Blah 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 blah. Go.